Glam Girls, welcome back to my channel. It's Chelsea, where we talk about all things glam and all things girly. I'm a beauty enthusiast and consultant who loves to talk about everything dealing with beauty and makeup, and today NATASHA DENONA has given us another mini palette. This is the mini bronze palette. I will be sharing with you how I created this eye look, doing a couple of comparisons with this palette, of course with the Mama Bronze palette, and just letting you know my thoughts, if we have any repeat shades, you know, all the things. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I truly do appreciate it. And if you would not mind, I would love for you to consider clicking that subscribe button, joining the Glam Girl Squad. And if you do enjoy this video, give me a thumbs up and let's get right into this video. So mini bronze palette does retail for $27. We are getting 5 shades in this palette, 4 matte shades and 1 metallic. From what I could tell, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, there is only 1 repeat shade in this palette and another palette. And I believe the other shades that we have in this palette are new. So the 1 shade that I could find that was in another palette was Flesh. This shade Flesh is also in the NATASHA DENONA Star palette. And we have it right here. So y'all correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. I don't think we have any other shades in this palette that are in other ones, which if that is correct, I'm always happy with that. I love when we can get, you know, a variation of another palette, but the shades are different. And honestly, I've got a good amount of NATASHA palettes. I want to say I have almost all of them. And I looked through all of my palettes, and from what I could see, there were shades, of course, that are in the same family, but none that really were like stand out identical to this one. So I was really happy about that. Even when we're looking at the original bronze palette, now let me just tell y'all, this one was my jam summer of 2020. I beat this palette up. I could not get enough of it. And when you look at these two together, let me try to diminish the glare. I mean, we see some shades that are in the same family, but we don't see any shades that are like downright the same. At least, you know, I don't think so. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. So I was really happy about that. Another thing that I was also happy about was that we have 4 matte shades that I feel are really great matte shades if you're looking for a more bronzed, warm look. So she created this palette saying that she wanted to create one that is perfect for the summertime, that will give you like the warmest look, and we are getting the warmest look with these tones. And I love the shades that she chose for, I feel, what she was going for. I feel like she wanted us to have like bronzy, extremely warm looks. And I would even say, Michelle Wong said this when we were talking, she's like, this is coppery. And I'm like, this is very coppery because it is very warm. So no cool tone here. If you're looking for a cool tone palette, you're not gonna find it here, but very warm. I also like that with this palette, the shades that she chose are not so close in color to where I feel like when you put them all on the eyes, it's just all looking the same. So let me get into some quick swatches and then we'll get into the eye look. So we have Russet, which is a matte warm dark brown. Beige, which is a matte beige nude. I'm sorry, this is Flesh, not beige. Then we have Gobi, which is a matte medium tangerine brown. Bronze Foil, which is a metallic coppery bronze. And then lastly, Tough, which is a matte medium terracotta. So these are all 5 of the shades in this mini bronze palette. And like I said, I really like these tones. I think they are perfect for the summer, especially if you want that really just warm, coppery, you know, literally kissed from the sun type of look on the eyes. So when I created this eye look, I really wanted to see how all of the matte shades looked on the eyes, to see like, do we see a difference in any of these tones? You know, does it just look like one shadow on the eyes after we're done playing around with them? So I first went in with the shade called Flesh and blended that all over the eye. I went in with the About Face primer first, and then I went in with the shade Flesh. Flesh is just about my complexion in terms of we don't really see too much of a difference on the eye, but it worked beautifully as a blending shade. So I put it all over the eye, and then as I was adding the other shades, when I felt like the edges might have not been as blended as possible, I went back in with Flesh, and it really helped to diffuse the other shades and blend them together. And I really enjoy this one. Very much, like I said, a warm shade, but it worked beautifully for blending out the other shades. Then I went in with the shade called Gobi, and I really wanted to concentrate that in the crease of my eye. It blended beautifully. These mattes really are like, they just blend effortlessly. I really enjoy them. Then wanted to deepen up the crease, so I went in with a Tough right here. And once again, kept that like toward the outer area of the eye. But then as I was working through it and kind of seeing where the eye look is gonna go, I wanted to take that shade Tough and blend it also on the majority of the lid, because I just thought it was beautiful. I love this shade. This could most definitely be a one and done type of shade for tan, deeper complexions, maybe even medium tan complexions, depending on how warm you want your eye look to be. I think the shade Gobi could also be a one and done eye look for lighter complexions as well. And then after that, I wanted to create a nice wing with the shade called Tough. So went in, Russet. Russet. Wanted to create a wing with that. So, this, once again, so pigmented, but so easy to blend. I love this shade. I love all the shades actually in this palette. Like, I just love the tones, but the mattes were just so easy to blend with. And then I went back in with the shade called Gobi, and I added that in the inner corner of the eye just to give, some type of shadow there, but I didn't want to overtake the inner corner and make it too dark. And so the first eye look that I created was just with the matte shadows, and it is beautiful. These matte shades are so beautiful and easy to work with. And then of course we had to use the one metallic shade in it. So took the metallic shade here that's called Bronze Foil and just added it to the inner corner of the lower lash line. And then of course I brought it up just a little bit in the inner corner of my eye, and I was like, looks like I have like flames of fire in the inner corner of my eyes. Like, it's so pretty. Formulation wise, I think this might be one of her best formulated mini palettes. And she's come out with a few, like, as she has created more of these mini palettes, the formulation is getting better and better. And I feel it's getting more consistent in that now when she comes out with a mini palette, my first thought is not, is that gonna be a good formula? I think the formula in this is beautiful. She did not incorporate any of her creamy matte shades in this mini palette. Sometimes she will, but in this case she did not, and I'm actually not mad at it. The creamy matte formulas, I've learned how to work with them, but this silky matte texture is just easier to work with. It's much more user-friendly, so I'm glad that she stuck with these matte shades versus her creamy matte formula. So I most definitely feel like if you didn't want to pick up the Mama Bronze palette, I know when this palette came out, some of the feedback was that, the shades in here were pretty much all the same. There wasn't, enough diversity in this palette for the different looks that you might have wanted to get. So I feel like the Mini Bronze palette is perfect in giving you, a good, if I could say, a good option that's more affordable, but you'll still be able to achieve that really warm, deep, bronzy look that Natasha wanted us to create with these types of shades. I really love this. I can most definitely see myself traveling with this when I want to create a look like this. I have nothing bad to say about it. I think it's really beautiful. Like I said, I've already compared it to the Mama Bronze palette. The shades are not going to be the same in my opinion. Like I said, there's a couple of shades in here that I'm like, okay, we could swatch next to it. But in all honesty, when I looked at them, I was like, I see differences. And if I can see differences just by looking at the two palettes side by side, then even though the shades might be in the same family, I don't think they are close enough to be like, she's duped shades or she's repeating shades. Looked at the Sunset palette because I also thought about that one. And as you can see here, no repeat shades, at least like I said, nothing that makes me go like, oh, she took, you know, this, you know, one shade from here from the Sunset palette. Metropolis, because I was like, Metropolis is pretty warm. Metropolis gives me like that kind of very summer fall type of look. And here you go. And I didn't really see too many that were like identical. Like I said, there might be shadows in here that are in the same family for sure, but nothing that's, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know, you can basically recreate this palette from other palettes that she has. I mean, you can get a similar look, but I don't think it's anything that's like outright identical. And then the last one that I thought of, and mine is so busted, Biba. I looked at Biba and I was like, oh, Biba is much more neutral compared to Mini Bronze. Mini Bronze is gonna be a lot more warm than Biba is. So, and the same with the mini palettes. I went through all of the mini palettes, and even with the mini palettes that are more warm, they're not nearly as warm as this Mini Bronze palette is. And they'll have, you know, more than one shimmer, whereas this one has 4 mattes and 1 shimmer. So I really feel like if you are a collector of Natasha's mini palettes, you could get this one and not feel like you're repeating yourself with getting this palette. And then 2, if you're not a collector of her mini palettes or even her larger palettes, but this is a palette that you might like, I definitely feel like you would enjoy it. Now, if you love eyeshadow, I definitely agree that you have these shades in other palettes. I pulled out Natasha's because I always love to compare, you know, a new palette from a brand with other palettes that they do have. And I know there's a palette that I feel like I have that reminds me of this one, and I just can't think of it to even go and find it to figure out, like, are they very similar? And if I find it, I might end up doing a separate video if I can remember it. But I think this one is a surefire winner. I think if you're interested in it, definitely pick it up. It's really beautiful. I love, love, love this eye look. And, you know, like I said, if I were, you know, like, if in terms of trying to justify this palette, I would purchase this palette with the intent of, I'm going to use this as like a basic, simple, go-to eyeshadow palette. In the sense of, you can get a few different looks with this palette for sure, but you're not gonna get, like, you know, the most diverse look with this palette just because all of the tones are very warm. There's only 1 shimmer shade, so depending on how you combine these together, you could get, you know, different variations of a look, but you're not gonna get, like, you know, 5 completely different types of looks. However, depending on how you might want to use this palette, I do see this being a palette that you can get a whole lot of use out of. Because like I said, for me, I can most definitely use these shades as one and done looks. I could mix the metallic with any of these shades, and I can get a few different looks from this palette to where it would be worth my while, and I feel like I'm not just creating the same eye look every time I reach for this palette. But will I create maybe the same 2-3 eye looks? Yeah, I will. So I hope that helps you to figure out if this palette would be a great one for you. Formula wise though, there's no question there. Formula is beautiful, amazing, and if you get it, I do not think you will regret the formulation. It's just a matter of, do you think this color scheme is one that you already have? Is it a color scheme that you feel you'll need? I think that's more of the question that you might want to ask yourself. And then in terms of, like, you know, complexion wise, I think if you have a really deep, rich complexion, I do feel like these shades will be complementary to a lot of deeper complexions because the shades are more warm. Now, if you have a deep, rich complexion and you have more of a cooler undertone, then this palette may not be the best for you, depending on how you like your eyeshadow colors to be. But I do think we have enough depth in this palette that if you do have a richer, deeper complexion, that you could work with this and be satisfied with a more simplified look. Maybe reach outside of this palette to get a deeper shade if you really want to smoke out the eye look. But I do think that she did a really good job with, you know, trying to pick shades that a lot of complexions could use and could possibly enjoy. So let me know your thoughts down below, what you think of this palette. I want to hear all the things in the comment section. And if you've made it to this point in the video and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love for you to consider subscribing and joining the Glam Girl Squad. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in my very next video. Bye, guys.